If you look up ecotourism in the dictionary, it's described as responsible travel, designed to conserve the environment and improve the well-being of local people. The definition seems to describe the business model of conservationist Kurt Holle. The Peruvian was recently named Social Entrepreneur of the Year by the World Economic Forum and the Schwab Foundation. Correspondent Dan Collyns traveled to the Peruvian Amazon to show us what this ecotourism entrepreneur does in his lush and sprawling boardroom.
Can you imagine if waking up to this was all in a day's work? For nature lovers who can find their way around a spreadsheet, it might just sound like the best job in the world. But the business of making nature accessible to the rest of us is not as easy as it looks. When Kurt Holle began rainforest expeditions more than 20 years ago, it was a pipe dream.
Peru is a very stable, solid country nowadays, but back in those days we had internal warfare, we had a cholera outbreak, so there was no tourism coming to Peru, and it was a pretty radical thing to do.
Holle is the first to admit it was a steep learning curve, from a childhood love of birdwatching to becoming the founder of 3 eco-lodges in the Amazon rainforest. His first clients had to sleep on mattresses on the ground. Now it's a totally different experience.
There's this concept that the jungle has to be uncomfortable and that the jungle has to be, you know, a difficult place to live in. And, you know, we try to make it as comfortable as possible for people who are here. Put a nice bed and mattress, clean bathroom, good food on the table, spacious common areas, and what we try to do is make the luxury aspect of the lodge be the fact that you're always around nature.
By foot, from towering platforms, or by boat, tourists get the chance to see wildlife. Even unexpected nighttime encounters, like with this porcupine. But what sets Holle's vision apart from his competitors is that he's pulled the local indigenous community into the venture. It's often said in the world of business that it could be a jungle out there. Well, Kurt Holle has taken that expression and turned it on its head, taking the jungle and turning it into a successful business model. The community is called Infierno, which means hell in Spanish. It doesn't sound like the ideal place to do nature tourism. In fact, it earned that name, say the villagers, because getting here from the regional capital, Puerto Maldonado, was like going to hell and back.
Imagine you had to run a business with 200 families, which are all your family, no? Or your friends. The human side of life spills into the business side of life. Every community meeting we have. And our job is to kind of, you know, keep the human side in the community and from spilling into the business side inside of the lodge.
Now, with a small fleet of motorboats, rainforest expeditions can transport tourists from the local airport to a jungle lodge in a matter of hours. And incomes in the village have more than doubled, thanks to the eco-lodges.
We receive annual dividends, and we share this between the active partners in the community. We also have education and health support and social assistance, all thanks to the lodges.
Many of the community's young men and women have made careers working in the lodges in hospitality, catering, or as wildlife guides. Oscar Michaja has capitalized on the lucrative business of birdwatching as twitchers flock from around the globe to Peru.
I got this really spectacular opportunity to learn about birds. Now I work as a bird watching, doing freelance in other places as well.
Every one of your 5 senses is tuned into the nature all around you. And it's easy to see colourful birds and even troops of monkeys. Not just on the trails around the lodge, but in its grounds too.
Just a few meters away from the bar and restaurant in the lodge, but right above me in the bough of this tree There's some saddlebacked tamarind monkeys drinking nectar from the flowers. You really are in the heart of the Amazon here, and the Amazon is right here in the lodge with you.
For the visitors, it can be a once-in-a-lifetime experience.
I think this has been really special for them because they've not only learned about the animals, and they're learning about ecotourism, which is something that they've learned in school as well, and recycling and how to become more integrated with the environment. However, they're also learning about culture.
Most of Peru's Amazon rainforest is still too hard to get to for the average tourist. But in its more accessible parts, ecotourism has reversed the economic dynamic.
If the challenge is making the Amazon economically sustainable, then it's breathtaking views like these, here 25 meters up in the rainforest canopy, which tourists will be prepared to pay that little bit extra for.
A marketplace in which a macaw has more value at a clay lick than in a cage, and a standing tree is worth more than a felled one.
Dan Collyns in Peru, thank you for that report. It was Kurt Hawley's love of bird watching that initially inspired him to become a rainforest guide. And eventually that led him to construct his first eco-friendly lodge.